Education is often seen as a thankless job. So why would someone want to start their own school? Today's guest is here to talk just about that. All right, welcome to the Cleveland Pulse. I am your host, Edwin Hubbard Jr., and today I am excited to welcome a very special guest, Dr. Luciana Gilmore, who is a serial entrepreneur, an educator, a mom, a community advocate, and someone who's just done so much. I've been a fan of your work for so long.
Thank you.
And I'm happy just to have an opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate it.
No problem. So for our audience, just tuning in, just tell us about yourself, who you are, what you've done.
Okay, so where do I start? So I have been an educator for over 25 years at this point. That sounds absolutely crazy to me.
Especially since you're only 25.
Period. So just understanding that part of it, it's almost like, wow, this has consumed more than half of my life, that I have been loving the opportunity to be in front of children and give them access to education. I grew up in Cleveland. I'm a graduate of CMSD. Had some great experiences in CMSD. I've had great experiences as an educator myself. I have 3 children. My oldest daughter is 26. Asia, she lives in Cincinnati. She works for Procter & Gamble. She graduated from FAMU, just doing amazing things. My middle baby is now at FAMU. She's in school to be an orthopedic surgeon. Always been her passion for medicine, and she fused sports and medicine together. And then my son, Demetrius, so he is now 13. I think Demetrius sits in a very special place on the children's spectrum because he's the baby. All that little D has known of myself, at that age where he could recognize as me being an entrepreneur. So he doesn't even really understand the educator side yet. He's learning, but not yet.
So what's amazing about you is like the very first time I heard about you, before I ever had a chance to know you, I read about you in a newspaper article. And I read about your son creating a toy, right? That was a replica of himself that really just talked about the image and us loving ourselves. And Correct. I thought it was the most incredible thing ever.
Thank you.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we started that. It was COVID. Oh my God, world shut down. You have this concentrated time in the house. And we don't watch the news like that, but at this time, I think everybody was tuned into the news, like what's going on, During that time, that's when the George Floyd incident occurred, and we were sitting there, and it was the first time that I had to have a very intentional conversation with my son, because he was asking me like, Mom, why did that happen? Why don't white people like us? And I was shocked. For one, shocked that I even had to have this conversation with my little Black son about why and how this has evolved. From that, we had to do something, because when children are in their innocence, they don't understand that. And why is this happening? And what can we do? So we created Our Brown Boy Joy, and it kind of took off. We were literally in the basement, in the attic, in the garage, packing shipments. We traveled across the country for NBA on TNT and Cody Coxon, and we were just like, they were just picking it up, and it was really good, because I got to see that there is good in the world, and people want to see positive, inspirational stories. Especially, he was 8 years old at the time, and so from that we were put in Target, and it was an awesome opportunity for him to see how much of an impact he could have even at that young age.
It's needed.
Yeah.
It was needed then, still needed now.
Agreed.
That self-image and the projection of who we are is important, that it's reinforced at home.
Correct.
Because the world shows you a different picture. The world will tell you who they think you are, but our home base is who reminds us who we truly are. Correct. So I always thought that was amazing.
Thank you.
And then even so prior to that, you were an educator. So tell me about your education beginnings.
Yeah, so I started my first year teaching. I was at John Hay.
Wow.
And I was there right before the year that they closed. So that was my first teaching experience. I actually graduated from college in 2000. And I had a job with the city of Cleveland. did it, just wasn't what I felt like I should be doing. So it was a ad in a newspaper that said, non-conventional education pathways. We are opening up a program called E=MC². I interviewed on my lunch break. I walked from City Hall when the Board of Education was right down the street on Lakeside. I walked from City Hall, went to the Board of Education, interviewed on my lunch break, and before I got back to City Hall, they called and offered me the job.
Wow.
So I was not expecting that. It was just something to do on my lunch break. And I was like, oh my God, they're getting ready to put me in front of kids. Like, this is crazy. Especially, I had just graduated 6 years before then. So, I was still what I thought was young, But yeah, I started in John Hay, and I absolutely fell in love with it the first day I was in there. And I had never thought about teaching. Never even crossed my mind. And I have stuck with it since then. There is something about the energy that young people give you that you cannot find anywhere else. You can't replicate it. It's just something that I love.
So the educator piece was always there for you. How did you become an entrepreneur? Like, you do everything. Yeah. So like, how were you able to evolve and then even now eventually get back to where you can merge the two things together? Yeah,
so I think part of it, and without getting too spiritual, it was a time and place. Once I became a principal, that's all I wanted to do. Once, from the first day that I entered John Hay, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I want to be the principal. It took a couple of years. I went back to school and got my master's. Went back and got another master's in addition to that, just because my first master's was in curriculum and instruction with a specialization in special education. I went back and received my second master's in organizational leadership, and that's when I became a principal. I absolutely know that that's what I was supposed to be doing at that time. But when my time was up, my time was up. And so I led Alfred Benish. I was asked to go do some turnaround work at John Adams. And then I was asked to be the founding principal of the new John Adams College and Career Academy. But I knew at that point it was time for me to go. And God was telling me it's time to move. And I was so conflicted, like, God, I can't. I just sent my daughter to college. Like, how am I going to leave? This is the most money I've ever made. How do I'm divorced. What do I do? And I can remember the day that I made the decision, like, okay, God said leave, I'm going to leave. And I was telling God, like, but I'm scared to leave the kids here. Like, what's going to happen I'm responsible for them. And God said, you're going to be responsible for a lot more. I need you to leave. I called my supervisor. I said, can you come meet me at the school? And he did. As soon as he walked in the office, he said, you're quitting. I said, I am. And I left. And one of the scariest and hardest decisions I've ever made in my entire life. But I knew that it had nothing to do with me at that point. So I left and literally sat at home for a year, scared to death. I didn't, it's almost like you say you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're waiting for like all these people to call you because they knew that you were smart and you were a great principal and you were a great teacher. No one called. And so I sat there and it literally was almost at the 9th hour. I was like, you know what? I got to go back to work because in a minute, my funds are going to deplete. And at 9th hour is when I got a phone call, my first contract.
Wow.
And it was like that first contract, small, but it let me see he's coming, but I need you to sit and wait because I need you to absolutely know it came from me and nobody else. So I'm going to push you all the way until I can't push you anymore. It was uncomfortable, but I absolutely knew where it came from. I got that first contract and it almost put a battery in my back. I was like, okay, I can do this. And I had, during that year though, while I sat still, I also built a curriculum. I built a social and emotional learning curriculum only for girls. And I did it because I knew being in the schools that we didn't do a good job and making sure that our girls had like really good self-esteem and confidence and setting goals and understanding what the world was going to be like when they left high school. So I did that. I went back into schools. I got that first contract and then I got multiple contracts. And then I traveled across the country with contracts. And I started understanding that, yes, my reach was beyond the walls of John Adams. It became very, very clear to me. Alongside of that, I will say that maybe about 10 years ago, I knew I was going to open up my own school. I had no idea how or when. It kind of set in the background. I would take out my notebooks and just add notes to it. But I had no direction. I didn't know how to even start. One of the things that I know that I had to finish, though, is when I became a principal, I started my PhD program. And I found out I couldn't do both at one time. And so I paused it. Once I had left, I'm like, you know what? I have to go and finish that because I am standing in front of girls telling them how they have to achieve their goals, but I haven't finished mine. So I went back and finished it just for that reason. I didn't have to do it at that point to get contracts. I just knew that it wasn't for the adults I was getting it for. I was getting it for the girls who looked like me. So I finished and started doing the work. My PhD is actually, I wrote all about Ford on paper. So wow. I went to a program where they allowed you to do a model dissertation. And in that, while I was writing about Ford, all my research is about single gender education, inequities in education, societal images for Black girls. And why Ford is needed in urban communities.
So you were doing it before you even knew that this is where you were going. That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
For you to just, the faith that it takes to leap out and be an entrepreneur. I always tell people, like, a lot of people call themselves entrepreneurs. And even if you have a LLC, I have an LLC. I'm not an entrepreneur because that's not what I rely on to take care of my family, right?
Correct.
You're only an entrepreneur when you have to eat what you kill, when you have to survive on those contracts and being out there and working. That's an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And to switch from job security to going out on your own is just a fortitude I don't think that I've had to this point in my life. Yeah. But I commend you for being able to transition and make it and thrive. Yeah. And now get to a point where you could do both.
Correct.
And so that's incredible. And then not even needing to go to get your doctorate. It's just that you did it for you.
I did it for the girls who I knew I was going to stand in front of. Literally at that point, I had 2 masters. I didn't have to go and finish it if I never wanted to. But I knew I was going to stand back in front of girls again. And I needed them to see me in that space. It's
something to be said about finishing and completing our goals, completing what you started.
Agreed.
So you go back, you complete your doctorate.
Yeah.
You have a thriving business. The groundwork for Ford is being laid.
Yes.
At what point did this snap into your mind and say, you know what? I need to start a school?
So I knew it along the way. I just didn't know how to make it come to fruition. I didn't know the steps. And so I kind of looked a little bit into the state to see like what's the steps. And it gives you like this overview. But I didn't understand the mechanics behind it. So when I graduated with my PhD, the first thing I did is I went to the city of Cleveland. I defended in October. I had an appointment with the chief of education in December. And I met with her and I'm like, had an hour. I put a whole presentation, presented my dissertation. And at the end, she was like, this is great. This is great, but the city isn't ready for it yet. And I was devastated. I'm like, wow, this is the work that I've done. I know they need it. Regardless if they're ready for it or not, it's needed. And I left devastated. That was in December. That same person quit the city of Cleveland and reached out to me 6 months later on LinkedIn. She said, Luciana, I have not been able to get your story out of my mind since I met you. I would like to help you get the school open. And from that day, she has been by my side. Her name is Holly Trefino. And so we kept in touch. She was asking me like, okay, so what do you need? How can I help? And we really just was meeting over coffee, like sketching out a plan. There was a fellowship that I just finished called BES, Build, Excel, and Sustain. She said, I've reached out to them. I think you need to apply. They will help you through the application process. I said, okay. I applied. I got in. I got in 24. So it's a year-long process, but because the process for opening up schools in Ohio is a little bit off the calendar year, they extended mine beyond the year. So I did 18 months with BES. With that fellowship, we traveled across the country to see effective schools while we were writing the application to open up our school. I will say that my application to Ford was longer than my dissertation.
Wow.
My application to Ford was 387 pages. I had to write everything from when the door is going to open to when it closes. Who's opening it? Who's closing it? Who purchased that door? What funds did it? It's everything. And so they leave no stone unturned. But the great part about that is that that's how it should be. I'm getting ready to educate kids. I'm getting ready to be responsible for girls getting ready to be young women to go out into society. It should be that involved. It should have that many details. It should be. And so I appreciate the process.
Sounds like countless hours of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this.
I've never done anything so hard in my entire life.
I can only name a very few instances where I know someone who is open to school. And the first one that pops to mind is LeBron James with the I Promise Academy. So to see you doing that very thing here in Cleveland, I commend you. And so I'm really excited. So now you're going to tell me, when is the school coming? When is it opening? Give us the details.
So the school is opening August 2026. We will only be starting with 9th grade, so 75 girls. We have 31 girls who have already applied and enrolled at Forward. So we're excited. We're just excited about the possibilities. Before this interview, I was speaking to a group of 8th graders and just sharing with them, the possibilities and the statistics and why this school was important. When we think about the all-girls schools that we have here in the city, which are amazing. I take nothing from them. The Laurels, the Hathaway Browns, the Beaumonts. And this is even what I share with the girls. The problem with that is that there is a financial barrier. And so if you cannot attain that financial criteria, then you don't get to attend that institution, which we know at those particular institutions, it's 100% graduation rate. It's 100% matriculation to college. That's the norm. There are no exceptions. And so if you don't have the financial criteria to attend those schools, then you are forced into institutions that are maybe about a 75 graduation. You may graduate. You may be proficient. It's unacceptable. And so when we talk about equitable education and experiences, there are none. And that's why Forward is going to exist.
So 75 girls will get the opportunity to start out. How are they picked?
It's open enrollment. Okay. And so they are required to write an essay. That is not to determine their entry. It is for me to see their writing level, see their thoughts on paper, which is important because it's a leadership academy. I want to see how they write. What are you thinking about? How are you putting it together? But outside of that, there's no criteria.
Okay, so 75, and I want to know about the families too.
Yeah.
How will parents engage with your school?
So this is what I have told parents that I have met with. While Forward is free, it is a cost. And the cost is partnership. Parents have to be involved. I can't do it by myself. My staff can't do it by themselves. It has to be a partnership. Everybody has to be working towards the common goal of getting girls highly educated, competitive when they leave, and whatever their aspirations are, whether it is college, whether it is entrepreneurship or the workforce, because those are the options. But I don't want you to have only one option. Whatever option they choose, I still want them to have the option. If you decide to go to college, I need your scores and your grades and everything to be reflective that's where you can still be competitive and go.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm really excited about your school starting up.
Thank you.
I know you're going to hit max out at enrollment.
Yes.
But tell me, what can the average person do to help?
Yes.
Or get involved or get engaged?
So we're looking for mentors. Every girl will have a mentor at Forward. And so, of course, I belong to the amazing Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And so just looking for mentors. And that includes male mentors, too, because we know the statistics of inner city girls and what they may be missing inside of their household. So I want to make sure that they just see us in every crevice of that school. They see themselves, they see us supporting them. So mentoring is what we are looking for now. Of course, because we are a free school, we are a 501c3, so any donations goes directly to our school. I do have a board and we have a treasurer, and all those funds are accounted for, and just making sure that we're doing the right thing by children.
So, you ever have a civic engagement day, you can count me in.
Thank you. I
more than willing
appreciate
to come in and be a part of that.
Thank you.
But tell people how they can donate.
Yes, so you can donate directly on the website, www.forwardgirlsleadership.com. There is a link to donate. You can do a one donation. You can do a reoccurring donation. We have some that have already started reoccurring donations. And every little bit helps. We have a fundraiser coming up in November, and so we'll be selling tickets to that, hoping that a lot of organizations will purchase tables to just come out and be able to hear from the girls even early on their experience from August into November. Like, what have they learned? What makes Ford special and different for them? So we're excited about that, and yeah.
How can people follow you and follow Ford?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. All of it is Ford Girls Leadership.
Ford Girls Leadership.
It is.
All right, and then last thing, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions.
Okay.
So if anybody is interested in getting in contact with you, they can find you on all of their social media outlets as well.
Correct.
And then one of the favorite things I love to ask all of the guests is, tell me what's on your music playlist right now. T.I. Let them know. All right.
You better let them know. Yes.
Right. Dr. Gilmore, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Cleveland Pulse, and we wish you and Ford nothing but the most success. We plan to be there, support.
Thank you.
Is there a ribbon cutting ceremony?
There will be. So it'll be at the top of August. We'll have media, so of course I'll invite you out to come and be a part of that. But we're just really excited. We're getting ready to change some girls' lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
Count me in right now. I will be there.
Thank you.
Excited to support you and excited for what you're doing for the city of Cleveland and how you will impact those girls' lives moving forward.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, and to all of you who have tuned in today, thank you for tuning in to another Cleveland Pulse podcast. If I don't see you before our next podcast, do the best at taking care of yourself, and we'll see you soon. Peace.